Hi everybody, it's Oksana, and today I'm going to show you how to wrap a little wolf head pendant like this. And we're just using one piece of 20 gauge wire, and then optional you can use a skinnier wire to attach some beads for additional decoration. And this is a bead. The wolf head is a bead that has a hole going through it. So if you want to see how I wrap this, just keep watching. So I'm going to be using some 20 gauge wire, and mine is artistic wire. It is copper that's been silver plated and enameled to be this kind of golden color. And the piece that I'm going to be using is 10 inches long, and then the wolf head, if I measure from the ears down, it's like 1 3/4 inches maybe. Yeah, about 1 3/4 inches. So a little less than 2 inches. And I found this wolf head on Etsy. If you just search for gemstone wolf head or wolf head bead, it should pop up. There's a whole bunch on there, and it basically has a hole going all the way through it, which we are going to use. And then another thing that's optional for decoration, so you can either make this really simple or you can fancy it up a little bit. So I have the same type of wire, the same color, but this is just a thinner piece. It's 28 gauge, and I'm going to use these sparkly little beads that I have, just little crystal beads, to add some decoration to the wolf at the end, which is of course optional. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 20 gauge piece of wire that I had cut, and I'm going to put it through the wolf so that the wolf head is roughly in the middle of this wire, just kind of eyeballing that it's in the middle. And then I'm going to take it right here where it's coming out of the hole on both sides, and I'm going to push it up with my fingers. So now we have something like this. And now I'm going to take the wire and I kind of keep bending it forward, and then with my finger I'm going to put like a little curve in it so it starts to go up. And I'm going to do that on both sides there. So it ends up being kind of like this. And then when they meet up, I'm going to go ahead and kind of cross them over. Kind of forming this little shape here. So for my bail, what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist this wire. So this can be a little tricky, so it's good to practice with any extra scraps that you have. But the key to this is to try and keep them kind of angled the same. So one wire is not more straight than the other. They're both kind of going equally, so that when you twist, your little twist is even all the way up. So after I kind of twist it around once, I check my angle, and if any wire kind of moved, like say one wire moved and it was like this now, I would kind of fix it up so that I could keep my twist more even. Just gonna zoom in a tiny bit here. Like that. And the number of times you need to do this is just a few. So I've done it, like 3 times so far. I'm going to do it a few more because this is going to be the bail. It's going to kind of bend all the way around and down. So I'm just going to do this a 4th time. And let me see. Probably a 5th time would be good, just to make sure it's long enough. All right, so now here's what it looks like. And then I like to just kind of place my finger here to give it a nice kind of curvy bend, because if you just bend it, it might bend kind of sharply. But since the tips of your fingers are rounded, if you kind of do that, it'll give you a more rounded bend. So this is going to be the bail that you put your necklace through. So we're just going to push on that, kind of squish it together. And it is a tiny bit wobbly because the hole is quite big, so the wire moves in the hole, but it will be secure in the sense that it's not going to like fall off or anything because it's connected. So now these wires are coming in here, kind of right above the eye of the wolf. So what I'm going to do is with my finger, I'm going to make a little bend. So this is how I want the wire to be. But I also want to tuck it under this other wire. So just tuck it right under. You can use pliers if that's easier for you. Sometimes that can be easier to grab the end of the wire, but don't pull too hard because we want it to stay in this nice little curved shape. We don't want to pull it so hard that it pulls all the way through and becomes, you know, it just will come right up here instead of being down here. So, I mean, you could do that theoretically, but I kind of like the look of this being on the side there. And then once you get to here, so now it's going, you know, underneath this wire, and here it is coming out up top there. So I'm just trimming it, giving myself this tiny little wire end so that I can basically form a little loop that I'm going to close. So I'm just going to pinch that loop closed just like that. And so here's what that looks like now. So on the other side, I'm basically going to do the same thing. So it's going under, and I'm forming this little, right above the eye, kind of bend, just making sure that they are even looking. And then we are just going to trim. And then we're going to close that little loop up. Like so. So if you want something plain and simple, then this is it. This is the plain and simple version. If you want to decorate it with some beads, then I'm going to do that now. All right, so for the beads, I just cut myself a relatively long piece of this 28 gauge wire. Just like maybe, sorry, I have beads on here. I should have probably measured it beforehand, like 9 inches. And then I just looked through my stash of beads. So I had some crystal beads that I showed you earlier, these little pinky ones, and then I found some kind of golden color ones I have, and I just basically put them on this wire in such a way that it fits from one end to the other end here. So just kind of play around with whatever beads you have to string them on a wire. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take one end of that wire and we're going to put it under here like this. And then the other end under the other side. And just going to pull that through. I'm going to push these beads up a little bit. So now it looks kind of like a crown, and it's sitting up top there. So now it's time to just connect this wire to attach those beads. So the first thing I'm going to do, instead of just wrapping this around and around here, I'm just afraid if I do that, it'll just have the ability to kind of slide up and down. So what I'm actually going to do to prevent that from happening is I'm going to take this little wire and I'm going to put it here. Do you see up here this little wire going across the top, I'm gonna put it under it, and then I'm just pushing it all the way down. So it's just going under everything. And then you can use your pliers if you need to just kind of grab and pull, and you can kind of see the little loop that it's forming there. So I'm just gonna pull that tight, and now I can go ahead and just wrap it around and around this bottom wire, because now that it's attached up there, it's not gonna slide down. So I'm basically just putting it underneath, pulling it through with my pliers, and that's how I'm connecting it. Now you could do this all the way down, or just like this much is plenty to keep it secure. So I'm just gonna leave myself a tiny little wire end. Then I'm gonna take that little wire end and I'm gonna just kind of curve it down and pinch it down so it's going under, so it's not going to be exposed, it's going to be kind of tucked away under there. All right, so that is connected. And now here on this side, so we already have it going underneath. Now we're just gonna bring it up and put it underneath this top wire as well. So just all the way down, all the way through. So I'm just going to pull it through and just kind of pull it tight. So we want this just going tightly across. So now I'm just holding it upside down because it's easier for me when I'm working on the side. And I'm just going to start wrapping it around and around this wire here. All right, so when it starts to look pretty even with the other side here, in terms of the number of the little loops, like you can actually count them out if you want, then we're just gonna trim it. Same thing, except this time it's just pointing in the other direction because it's on the other side here. And then we're just gonna tuck it away under there. So now it is connected. It's not going to move down because it's attached to the top wire, not just the side wire. These here on the side of the eyes of the wolf, there is a little spacing there. There's like a little gap that you can see from certain angles. If you don't like that, you can try to just kind of push it down with your pliers to close that gap up, like I just did there. If you need to adjust your bail, if it kind of moved out of place, feel free to do that as well. And then I have this kind of golden colored chain that I'm just going to use with it. So I'm just putting it through the bail there. And that's it. That's our little wolf head pendant. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.